Are you in this game? No, I don't think so. I mean, you're not a cryptid, are you? No. No, I didn't think so. No, I didn't think so.
Join the team.
Ooh, you know what? Bear territory. This game does have a bear territory, and you are a bear. You're in the game, buddy. Hey team, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new one from Osprey Games called Cryptid. So let's lock in and get ready to go. Alright, everybody's loving the bears. Let's get into Cryptid. Cryptid is a brand new one from Osprey Games again. I'll say these guys are putting out some great titles, and yet this is another one. Game by Hal Duncan and Ruth Verveers. And on the back we can see here that it is 10 plus, 30 to 50 minutes, 3 to 5 players, and it is a competition type game. So there will be one winner for this game. It is not a cooperative game. It's definitely a one winner takes all here. And I'll say that it does play out pretty well. It is a very fun game as far as what you're going to be doing over the course of gameplay. It really has this high analytical feel, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the gameplay of what this title offers. You can see the components that are on the table here, and I'll say Osprey Games is known for making very nice, high-quality components, high-quality presentations, and I think they've done it yet again. You know, it doesn't have to be full of plastic and full of, you know, tons and tons of artwork, although this game does have some nice artwork here on the board. Doesn't necessarily need that. Osprey Games definitely has a way of producing these titles that just have a very simplistic, a very elegant, sophisticated feel to the title, from the way that it's boxed all the way to its presentation on the table. And I feel I've been able to do that again, and I am impressed with this title, and I do very, very much like this game. So just to show a little bit of the box here, there are a few bags that are going to be included, as well as a piece of marketing material here for some of their other titles. And I will say this box is nice and hard. Good thick cardboard on this box, which we do generally see with their titles. Really nice packaging. And, you know, I'll tell you, some of my favorite games, believe it or not, are actually from Osprey Games. This is a great game. I've got quite a few other ones back here behind me. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is another phenomenal title if you haven't played that. And I will say, coming out here very soon, and hopefully we'll get this one on the channel, is Wildlands. Wow, cannot wait to get my hands on that one. That is fantastic. They did something a little bit different with that one, where they started to introduce miniatures that are washed and do have some basing on them, as well as some fantastic artwork on those cards, as well as the board. Kind of an adventure, crawler, combat type game. I'm really excited about that, and I can't wait to get the Wildlands here on the channel. We'll do a video on that one, and I probably will do a playthrough video with that one as well. So let's get back to Cryptid here, and we'll see what we've got to offer. So it is a 3 to 5 player game, so you will have each one of your colors, and each player is going to be able to get these cubes here, which are going to represent where a player is going to put where the cryptid or the habitat of that cryptid will not be located based on their clue. And we'll talk about what that clue means here in a second. That's what these cubes are going to be used for. The discs are going to be used to represent where the cryptid could possibly be based on whether it's one of your clues or one of the other players' clues around the table. So now let's talk about what setup looks like and how we're going to be able to use these books. Because a lot of these components you're not actually going to use during gameplay. You're going to use the board, you're going to use your cubes and your discs, and that's going to be it. You're only going to use one of these cards to start the game, and it's going to help populate the game board. It's going to help give you as players the clues that are going to be available for that game, and even some hints that you can use if you all get stuck and you decide to use those hints. And these books are going to include the various different clues that you would have for you as a player. And that's really it. And once you set that up in the beginning, you're not actually going to use these components any longer unless you forget your one clue that you have to remember over the course of the game, which is possible. You'd want to go back to the book and look that up. You don't want to forget that, though, because you're going to be asking other players questions. Players are going to be asking you questions and remembering what that clue is and ensuring that that is accurately remembered over the course of the game. And you're being honest about that clue That's going to affect the gameplay, so you are going to want to remember that after you read it out of these books. So let's hit the board, and then we'll hit how setup's going to work. You will see a few different things on the board here. Now, there are different types of topography that this map offers. We have water, the blue here. We have mountain, the gray with the mountains, obviously, forest. We have swamps, which are the purple, and then we do have the desert regions. There are two different types of areas on a map that do have a very small either dotted line or a red line border. You'll see that here for the red line, and then the dotted right up here in the desert. The red solid line is going to be a cougar territory, and the dotted line is going to be a bear territory. So yes, Bear did get into this game once again. He's made it in quite a few titles over the course of 2018, which has been pretty awesome to see. But this is a bear territory there with the dotted area. And then you will see a couple shapes that are on the board. This triangular shape as well as the cylinder. And then we do have the little pawn. That's going to come into play when it's a player's turn. But these right here are abandoned shacks, little abandoned sort of homes or areas that are on the board. These are what they call standing stones that are on the board. And that's the only shapes that you're going to see. Those two things, abandoned shacks and standing stones. Those are going to be primarily used when we get to our clues. You may have a clue like, hey, the habitat of the cryptid may be within 3 spots from an abandoned shack. Anyone. Or within 2 spaces from the green abandoned shack. Or it has to be more than so many spaces or within so many spaces from a standing stone or a certain colored standing stone. And that's what these objects are going to be used for over the course of the game. And that's going to be laid out right here on this card. So when you start the game, there are 2 different types of card types in the game. One of them is your standard deck, which does have just the single colored background there. And then your more advanced game or deck that has the black border on either side. That's how much replayability you have in the game. So I think that's something to note right off the bat, is that every one of these cards is different. They have different clues on the back, and that's going to be essentially your setup for the game. And that's the only thing you're going to use these for. Is once you choose one of these cards, you'll put it down, you'll set up the board based on the front of this card. You will see that the front of each one of these cards, whether it's the standard game or the more advanced game there, do look the same, and you'll see that it will lay out all 6 tiles of the map in the game. It will tell you exactly where those tiles need to go based on these numbers, and each tile does have a number up in the top corner right here on each one of the tiles. You'll be able to see that number to say 1 through 6. And then it will also give you the orientation of that tile based on a little dot, and depending on where that dot is, that tile will go, straight on the way it is, or it will go kind of upside down, which is what we have here with this setup, where tile 3, the little 3 is actually down here, and it's flipped upside down because the dot on this card indicated that we should do that. And then you will see the standing stones and the abandoned shacks on this card as well, little tiny symbols, and those symbols are colored, and you'll be able to know exactly where each one of the objects go. And once that's set up, you'll want to double check that as a group, and then you'll flip the card over, and then on this side of the card, what you'll do is you'll go through and you'll determine how many players you're playing with, 3, 4, or 5, and that will tell you how many of the different types of books you'll need for that turn, as well as what those clues will be. So we'll see here that the red, green, and it was like a grayish colored book will be used for 3 players. Let's say we were playing a 3-player game, and we would need clue 13 from the red, clue 65 from the green, and clue 65, we'll just say, from the gray book. And you'll open that book as players, and you'll go through and you'll get your clue. Now, each player will only get one of those clues, one of those books, and you'll go around the table and give each player in order one of those books, and they will read that clue, and that will be their clue for the course of that game. We'll take a look at what those clues look like. And then here in the very end here are what they call the hints. So if at any point in time the group gets stuck, and you're not really sure what to do, you're not getting anywhere as far as where your cubes and your discs are placed, you can go for a hint, and the hints are stored in the base rulebook that comes with the game. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at this. Nice layout, high color text. It's a very short rule book. That is it right there. Just a couple pages on how to play the game. And then it will go over what some of the possible clues look like in the game so you can get a feel for that. And then there is an area where you'll find all of your hints. So, for instance, on this card here, it says 8 for that line of that many players. And if any point in time we needed to get a clue, we could come to this book, we could open it up, go to 8, and the group would need to agree that they wanted to do that, or majority would have to win that vote. It says 8, no within one space clues. So what that's saying is no one around the table has any clue where the cryptid habitat could be within one space of anything. So you know that it has to be at least 2 spaces away from any type of object. And that may give you a lot of information depending on when you cash in and go for that hint if the group decides to do that. Usually that's going to be later in the game, or if players really start to get stumped, it's something that you can bring in as an extra piece of information to the game to help individuals know where things might be located. Because that's the objective of this game as a player, is once you get your clue, you're going to use that clue to either benefit yourself on your turn or possibly throw other players off. And the point of the game is to try to ensure that you can guess when it's your turn where that cryptid habitat is. And you'll do an action called searching and an action called questioning. Those are the only 2 things you'll do on your turn. And when you're ready to search, you're basically looking for that cryptid habitat. And that could be really anywhere on the board. That's the beauty to this game. When you get your clue, it's not about finding the cryptid just within your spot of where your clue is. That's just a clue of where a cryptid habitat could be located. Your cryptid that you find, that habitat, could be located anywhere on this board, and you'll all be using those clues individually as players, not sharing them, to dictate what you do on your turn. That may drive you to put these cubes on the board, because the cubes go in areas where the cryptid habitat cannot be or would not be based on your clue. You're always going to be putting these cubes when you need to do that, and generally you're going to put a cube when you force someone else to have to put a cube down. You're going to do that in an area that cannot be where the cryptid habitat is based on what you know from your own clue. But you really can put that cube anywhere on the board that doesn't fall within your clue. So you can strategically use that to kind of throw other players off of where habitats could be and where they could not be, only based on your own clue. So you can start to see here, when we take a look at these clues, so for the red, we need the red, the green, and the darker, it's actually kind of a darker bluish gray. And we'll go here and we'll say, well, player 1 would get clue number 13 from this book. And we can see that clue number 13 says within 3 spaces of a white structure. So player number 1 is going to know, and they're the only player that's going to know, that a cryptid habitat can be located within 3 spaces of a white structure. Well, that doesn't say a white standing stone or a white base or an abandoned shack. That says a white structure. So it could be within 3 spaces of this area, and it could be within 3 spaces of this area. Okay? And it is one space on the board, so it does give you still quite a bit of option of where that could be. And now that you know that as a player, we've talked a little bit about placing these cubes. So when you're forced to place a cube on an area that, per your clue, is not where the habitat could be. For this player, for instance, it's within 3 spaces of one white structure. You may decide to put that cube just 4 away, or you may decide to put that cube all the way over here and drop it. So there's different things that you can do when it's your turn to somewhat throw off other players. However, you're balancing where you're putting your cubes, where a habitat cannot be, with every other player of how they're strategically putting cubes of where a habitat can't be. And what that causes over the course of the game is the more of these cubes that get out on the board, the more you're looking at this board and you're analyzing where the habitat could be based on all the cubes of where it can't be. And that's where you're searching mechanic comes in. When it's your turn, you can actually question or search. So when you question, you will actually put your pawn on a space, and you'll select a space on the board, and you can ask any player around the table, is the Cryptid habitat there? That player may be decided upon based on the cubes and the discs that are already on the board. And that player, only based on their individual clue, will say, yes, the habitat could potentially be there, or no, it's not. If it's not, they're going to place a cube. Anytime another player places a cube, you will also have to place a cube. Or they could say, yes, based on my clue, the habitat could potentially be there. And then they would put down one of their discs, which will indicate to all players that that's an area where a habitat could potentially be. The other option that you can do is called a search. On a search, you're going to place your pawn, and then you're going to place one of your discs on an area that doesn't already have one, and you're going to start to go around the table clockwise, and you're going to ask every player, could this be the potential habitat? And you're going to go until someone puts down a cube and says, no, based on my clue, this area cannot be a potential habitat. So if you get all the way around the table and everybody puts a disc, you've won the game as the player, because you've been able to target a spot on the board based on all the cubes that are out on the board, all the discs that are out on the board, that it's the most optimal potential spot on the board to be a potential Cryptid habitat. And if you're able to do that, you're able to win. Soon as someone, as you're going around the table, doesn't put a disc and they put a cube, that's when that searching will stop, and then you will, as a player, because you've forced another player to put a cube, you will have to put a cube, and then the turn will pass to the next player around the table. So that's how the two actions in the game are going to work, and that's all there are. It's just two actions to play the game. Let's take a quick look at these other clues, just to give you a flavor of some of the other clues. In this book, it says it would be clue 65. So player number 2 would be clue 65. It says, within 2 spaces of a standing stone. So their clue is, it could be anywhere within 2 spaces of a standing stone. Okay? First player, remember, had anywhere within 3 spaces of a white structure. Second player's clue is anywhere within 2 spaces of a standing stone. Third player's clue, and this one is also 65, but it will be different because every book is different, within 2 spaces of an abandoned shack. So within 2 spaces of just any one of the shacks could be the potential habitat of the Cryptid that the famous cryptozoologists are searching for. So you can see that with everybody's different clue, you're going to have targeted areas within the map as these cubes come out where players say, nope, I'm going to tell you, based on my clue, it can't be here, it can't be here, it can't be here. The more and more and more those get in, it's going to start to isolate in for players sections of the board where all those clues tie together, and there can be possibly different areas on the board where those Cryptid habitats can pop up. And that's where it starts to get really, really fun end game. And I'll tell you, if you are an analytic, you are going to love this game. This game is for the person out there that loves the analysis type work, loves just simple mechanics. This is a great gateway game for groups and people that aren't into board games, because it's a lot of fun near the end of the game where you're sitting there on everybody's turn and you're really thinking, oh, okay, where's the spot that I'm going to choose and what's it going to be, and is someone else going to be able to find that Cryptid habitat and search before it's my turn if it's getting near to end game, and be able to find it. And then when someone searches and you think, oh no, they've got it, right? And then someone puts down a cube, indicates that, nope, you're wrong based on my clue. That's a lot of fun. But every single time it's your turn, you're just analyzing the landscape and you're looking at where it could possibly be, where it couldn't be. I love the theme on this game, and I love the design and the implementation of this game. Incredibly simplistic, very simple rule set, but very deep analytic thought that goes into every turn if you really want to get into this game and play it well.
So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, roll them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Bear, let's go.